Hi, I'm Michelle. I wanted to share a little instruction on what exactly training is in the creator economy. Now, training is different than teaching. Teaching and training are two completely separate practices of education, and we combine them sometimes. But training has its very own principles and strategies. And the steps that I want to with you are for training, not teaching. And I think you can recognize that a lot of people within this industry of the creator economy, influencer economy, they talk to you and say, well, I'm teaching you, I'm training you, I'm coaching you, I'm mentoring you, here's my course, here's my curriculum. And those words have gotten diluted and they have very specific meaning, but more especially they have very specific skill sets. And why that matters is when done well, your trainings will be more successful. So let's take a look at what training is and isn't. So, first, training is absolutely always performance based. That means simply that somebody can do something better or learn how to do it all together. It's like performing an exercise, baking a cake, completing an Excel spreadsheet, creating a video, organizing a drawer. It is performance based. You can move that into habits, or you can even train yourself to be disciplined. But these are performance based things, and that's very different than teaching, which is about changing knowledge, attitudes, beliefs, etc. So we're going to focus on training because it's so cool and it's a really great place for you to get started in the creator economy. So when I got what training is, I mean, really got it, I was a junior high gym aide. At the ripe old age of 13, my job was to lead this huge class of girls in calisthenics. Well, everybody's built how they're built and wired how they're wired. And it wasn't something that had ever occurred to me. But there I was in front of all these girls, and I thought, well, we'll just do jumping jacks. So I said, okay, time for jumping jacks, and we'll do 20 jumping jacks. And as I looked out at this sea of girls, there was a good 30% of that class that weren't wired the same way as I was. They had their own unique, beautiful abilities and skills, but figuring out where the arms and the legs and the jumps all went together was not particularly one of them. And I was challenged because I didn't know how to. So you just do it this way. I just did a jumping jack, but that's just how you do it. But I realized training meant that I had to break down what I did. What did they need to learn first? Well, actually, just the moving their feet was the first thing they had to learn. It took me a while to figure that out so that the girls could do their jumping jacks, because back then we actually had to pass these physical assessment tests and do so many jumping jacks in order to pass a class. So it was important, and it was a fun thing, and I really enjoyed that a lot. Then another real pivotal time when I understood training, and I'd like you to think about this. When have you really gotten training that's worked for you and you've understood it was brought together in a real practical way, step by step? And anyway, we'll go through what those steps are. But our coach in high school, our track coach, told us to just pop in, and as part of our workout, we were going to do 20 220s in 20 minutes. Now, at first, there's not a lot of strategy there, but what that kind of training was conditioning. It was conditioning us to get to a certain endurance level and etc. But it wasn't something she couldn't spend her time saying, now this is your strategy for running 22 20s in 20 minutes. Heel toe, swing your arms this way. It was none of that. It was no particular training. It was conditioning. And so that was kind of a different type of training. And if you think about when you have maybe needed to get up at 5:30 every morning and you had to condition yourself to do that. That's what I meant about how habits can be like a training. So those really stuck with me across the years about what effective training can and cannot be. So, how can it go amok is the question. Before we get started, I thought, well, I've certainly has gone amok plenty of times in my training. I'm going to give you a quick example. I was a nursing faculty for quite a few years, and we taught different levels. But I had, in this one particular class, a group of novice students, and that meant they didn't know anything about blood pressures. In fact, at that level, a lot of young students think, and older students, we think we're going to kill somebody just by taking their blood pressure. We think it's like a life and death skill. Well, I got all interested. There's very basic things: how to put the blood pressure cuff on, where you put the blood pressure cuff, where you put the stethoscope. Just really fundamental things have to be covered first, and you don't do any more than those fundamental things. Well, I felt like jabbering that day, so I was talking to them about the 5 different Karaktov sounds, the different phases of the cardiac cycle. I was just having a ball, and I was breaching the principles of training because I didn't stay level specific. But when I looked up after my little spiel about blood pressures, because I'd gotten off of training and moved into teaching, and where that's often where training gets mucked up, is I looked up, and here were these poor students, ghost white, didn't have a clue what I was talking about. They just wanted to be able to put the blood pressure cuff on, and I was yammering about something else. So keep it simple and keep it straight, keep it training. So training is, by the way, the easiest way to get started as a creator in the creator economy if you stick with the principles of training. So it's easier than course creation, it's easier than teaching, it's easier than coaching. And while I know there may be some trainers out there that are corporate trainers and do pretty extensive training programs for hundreds of people and corporations, etc., I'm not saying that there isn't a great deal of skill and competence around being a professional trainer. But in terms of the whole education gig, and you're getting started in the creator economy, I'll tell you what, designing a course is a lot of work. Developing the course, figuring out what your instructional design piece is going to be, how you're going to teach it, how are you going to coach. Those things are all, excuse me, also very learnable, but difficult. So after a whole, I've got some experience here. I've got a whole bunch of teaching and training and coaching and mentoring and advising across 30 years as teaching professor. I've taught in a few countries, and I've designed and developed hundreds of courses and trainings for well over 10,000 people in 6 countries and across the US, and in multiple settings and across learner levels. So I can speak to that with some authority, that training does require preparation and good thinking and attending to these competencies, to these steps, to these skills. But it is really a great, probably the easiest way for you to enter into the course creation, the creator economy. So how do you train? Well, I'm going to go through here the 6 simple and universal steps to effective training. So here they are. Where do we start? Well, I want to come back to this very important piece, that training is always performance driven. It's learning how to do something or do something better. Training usually is a physical skill, but it can also be like a habit in training yourself to get up an hour earlier, or to work on changing a belief or a feeling through, like, I don't know, saying something to yourself or meditating or whatever. But definitely it's a new or better way of doing something. So step 1, it's these 6 steps. You're going to go, oh, Michele, those are so obvious, but they're so important. If you don't do these, you fail your training and you fail the person you're serving. So clearly explain the skill to be learned, and if possible, show them an end product. If you're a cake baker and you want them to bake a cake, have an example of the finished cake, and then give very specific. In this training video, you will learn how to perform or do blit. Okay? And then step 2 is you always want to demonstrate the skill to be trained and learned. And you've got to do this first. You can do it in steps. For example, with cake baking, they may not know the properties of the flour and the dry ingredients, and you may want to talk about sifting or the difference. You may demonstrate the difference in, say, like a hard wheat. I'm not going to get into too much of this, but a hard wheat flour versus the softer wheat that is more for cakes and things, etc. And show, look at how hard this one is if you use this flour, and look how light and fluffy this one is if you use this flour. Whatever it is, have a sheet that you stick to, that the same process you want them to follow, uh, that you demonstrate it that way. But you always want to demonstrate your skill first, and you want to make sure it is stepwise, because you're going to give them next. You're going to give them a step-by-step checklist of the skill, just like a recipe. Just create a 1 or 2 page step-by-step process they can follow, and try not to make it longer than that. And do not add fluff or extras, just a bulleted list. They're trying to think and do something, so don't make it with little smiley faces or too many check boxes or anything. Just keep it very simple and straightforward, so they can repeat it. 1, do this; 2, do this, kind of thing. And then 4, in an ideal world, if we had people face to face, we would show them what the ideal is. Then we would give them the checklist for them to follow along, and then they would show us the skill. But because it's online, we rarely get to observe them. But we definitely want to ask them to pause the training and try it. And say, this is what, give an expectation. Because if you say, pause the video, you know what most people do? They get up and leave, or they go get a cup of coffee. Give them a task that you want them to accomplish in a return demonstration. And then step 5, always have some way for your customer, learner, trainee to have a practice time, some type of lab. You may set up a membership site. You may have a Facebook page or something, some kind of community where they get to post a little video, or they just tell you what the results were, or they have a little quiz or something, some way to help you know, and to give them the opportunity to have a practice time. The really important part of the practice time, and this is also in step 6, you want them to be practicing correctly. So it's hard to do a check on people that you're not going to see, or if you have large number of people, so you have to be a little creative here. And then step 6, really is a way to assess their new skill. And just as a reminder, training is visual. They need to see you do it, and they need to see you do a walkthrough of the skill. So a lot of people in this industry, talking, they equate with teaching and having a word or two flash in front of them. For training, that doesn't work. The cardinal rule is show, don't tell on training. And can they send you a short video, take a short quiz or something? Because we really don't want folks practicing the wrong way. And is there a way you can think of to provide them feedback and make sure they got what you had intended, and they've gotten the skill at the level that if they were a novice, they just had a beginning level, or if they were a master, they advanced a level. So those are the 6 steps. And training is successful when you are absolutely clear about the skill or set of skills that are needed, that you clearly define the desired performance, what the expectation is, and what that's right for that level, and that you stick to the 6. So whether you are teaching an audience how to bake a cake, design a website, create a digital content, these 6 steps do provide that universal approach to training. I want you to have fun. I want you to train well. We have too many people saying they're training and they're really not. They're just talking. So best wishes. I'm Michelle at the Course Creation Lab. If you'd like to learn more about what I do in terms of helping people to really develop quality products, their courses and content within this creator economy, I'd love to have you over in one of our courses or programs. Best wishes. Thank you.